Hi, I'm Dave Berry, Superintendent at Zeeland Public Schools, and welcome to a third in a series of videos explaining the iPad rollout for our students. Joining us again is Steve Braunius, our Director of Technology. Steve, thank you for joining us.
Good to be here.
You mentioned last time that our iPad distribution is the week of August 29th. When students receive the iPads, what are some of the expectations we have for students using iPads?
We've got all kinds of great expectations for kids. We're expecting them really to take the iPad and use it as, I would call it a personal learning device. So the idea that it's something that comes alongside them through all their learning experiences. We already know that Zeeland Public Schools, we have great teachers, great experiences for kids. This is really that chance for these kids to have a device that expands their opportunities. The idea that they're going to be able to take textbook types of resources and have those on there, videos. We've had teachers talking already about creating videos for students that they could load on these iPads, have them available, learn the information from their classes before showing up for class, and use digital resources, things like a Khan Academy that some people have heard about. Also audio resources. There's a rich bank of podcasts and things out on the internet where we have all kinds of resources for kids. So I think that idea of learning resources, communication tool for a kid, the idea that we can use the email resources and web resources to communicate. We have a space called Moodle for online learning, and this also gives kids a chance to have a tool that gets them into that, and it allows our teachers to know that every kid has access.
Now, it's my understanding that district's also putting together a kind of their own website where there's a kind of a resource-rich environment for different applications or websites. And
Yes.
how's that coming along?
Oh, it's coming great. And one of the neat things about it is that we have really a good group of staff that have already been engaged in this process for a long period of time. So we've been collecting resources for staff. We've also put together a group for our staff to be able to interact with one another and share ideas and resources, and then we're taking those and putting those together in a website. So it's one of those things where it's allowing us to grow as a community.
Yeah, excellent. Now, you mentioned some appropriate uses of the iPad for students. What would be some inappropriate uses of the iPad?
Yeah, I think when we look at the iPad, we really want the student to remember that this is a device that's for their education. And so inappropriate uses would be things like spending time during the school day using it for all kinds of personal goals instead of the educational goals that we're there for. And so we really expect kids to use this thing in a way that they're proud of, in a way that they would in any setting when they're with their parents, with teachers, that they would feel comfortable with them looking over their shoulder. I think that's a good test in terms of whether you're doing something you should be or not with the iPad.
Now, we know that there's the possibility that these could break or a student could drop them accidentally. What's the process in place if a student breaks an iPad?
Typically, in any breaking scenario, we're going to plan on having some spares available for immediate use so that the student's not without one, and we'll actually have those in our media center available. But then what will happen is the student will turn that in, get the spare to use for a while. They'll get swapped in for a new one, but they will be responsible for a fee if it's something that they've dropped it or stepped on it or something like that. And so that fee would be a $250 deductible. It's roughly half the cost of the iPad. We do have some warranty options available that parents could also plan to do. It's roughly $69 for a year for a warranty that would help offset that cost for theft or loss.
So typically during the iPad distribution and rollout, families perhaps would have a choice either to consider the insurance warranty or taking a risk on being responsible for half the replacement cost.
Yes, and what we have done though is we've made sure that we have a case that's for it. In fact, I have it on this iPad. This is the case we plan on using for students, and we have actually, believe it or not, done some drop testing with that case and those types of things to make sure that it can survive some spills. We hope that that doesn't happen, but and we do expect people to take care of them. But we also will be, just one other thing with this, is we do plan on when a student receives an iPad, that will be the iPad they use for the next 3 to 4 years in their school career. So we do hope that they'll also take some personal responsibility knowing that that's the device they'll keep using.
So part of the distribution is when they log in and register, it's registering their their own identity and account to a particular iPad.
That's correct. Yeah.
So if they were in a locker room and they were exchanged or whatever, the school will have the ability to determine whose iPad that is.
Absolutely.
So that must really help for security of the iPads and the tracking of lost iPads.
Yes.
So that's exciting. What are some applications you see students doing? How will they be using the iPad in the classroom?
The ones that we've looked at that are just really great applications, of course it has a web browser on it so they can get on any internet resources. There's a great email communication tool on there. We're also looking at other tools that allow them to create. So there's a tool called iMovie that allows you to create videos on this, another one called GarageBand that allows them to create audio, music, be able to plug in instruments if they so choose, and be able to record themselves and that type of thing. So there's some really neat tools that way. We've also been looking at other tools that allow for drawing and creating art and communication tools. So I think it's a whole range of things, from communicating to watching videos to listening to audio to reading books. Those are the kinds of things that we would expect.
How do you respond to the parent or the community member that says, "Oh, I think this is a luxury. You know, when I went to school, we just had paper and pencil, and if it was good enough for me, it should be good enough for these kids today." How do you respond to that type of concern?
I think one of the things when we look at this device is we say, this is a chance for us to have a device in the hand of every student that allows us as a district to provide the best resources for kids. And that's what I think is the neatest thing about all of this. In the past, schools have had to rely on a textbook that maybe can't be replaced for 7 or 8 years, which means the information in that is 7 or 8 years old. And I think the big win for Zeeland in being able to do this is that we can give current resources to students so that they get the most up-to-date information, and that they get information in lots of different ways, that we don't have to provide it just as text, but that we can do videos and audio as well. So I think that whole ability for us as a school community to create information and share information rapidly, and as it changes, be able to change it without waiting for something to be printed or copied. And also I think there's that piece where it can help save our district money, because it helps us not have to use all of these paper resources.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you make some very good points. I mean, you know, one of the foundational premises, the basic skills used to be reading, writing, arithmetic, and now in the digital age, it's really being able to filter information, and good information, and quality information. And so we're seeing a change in what students know and what we expect of them in terms of using it, because of the amount of information that's certainly available on the internet. What would be some things that students would be using the iPad at home? Or what if a student doesn't have internet at home?
That's one of the other reasons we chose the iPad, actually, is that it really makes it easy to copy digital resources to the iPad, and that way they can still use it at home. So they can still read something that the teacher has sent to them. They can still be able to listen to audio that they've downloaded to it when they were at school, or videos that a teacher may have created, or videos that other students may have created. So all those resources can be loaded onto it and used even if there's no internet at home. And of course there's other tools that are on the iPad that allow them to type and to create presentations, and as we've talked about, movies and other things, that all can be done without having internet access.
Well, it's great to see that kids have the opportunity to create and communicate and collaborate and critically think using these tools really of the 21st century. Steve, I want to thank you for taking this opportunity to be with us. It's an exciting time for Zeeland Public Schools and our staff and students as they have iPads and the latest technology for 21st century learning. It's certainly an exciting time for our staff and students. We also want to take this opportunity to thank our community members for their commitment and support for technology in the hands of all of our children that will enhance instruction as we move forward to the 21st century. On behalf of Steve Braunius, our Director of Technology, this is Dave Barry saying thank you for your time. And this concludes our iPad Rollout for Zeeland Students series. For more information about our iPad program, go to ilearn.zps.org.